Steve, you're wearing not your usual orange today. Why is that,
Oh, that's
Steve?
true. That's true. Wait, let's see if I can stand up
Oh,
because
oh,
we have stuff Somerset
look at that.
swag.
Look
There
at
you
that.
go.
Look at that. I'm wearing my yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at us.
There
Look
you
at us.
go.
This is for everybody listening in podcast format. We're wearing our merch, which you can buy at stuffsummersays.com/the stuff. That was a shameless plug, and there'll be several of those throughout the rest of the podcast.
Maybe the
But
rest of the
now,
season.
maybe the rest of the season. But now it's time to begin the podcast segment of today's episode of the Stuff Summer Says podcast with
Steve,
Steve. And it's not just any episode, Steve. It is our season preview extravaganza celebration. I think.
I wondered what the band was for. I saw them in the parking
Oh
lot.
yeah,
I
yeah.
wondered.
Oh
Okay,
God,
good, good.
the jokes are. It's now officially season 4, and the jokes are still rolling and
Rolling. We're rolling
slowly
somewhere.
going somewhere. Um, got a lot of things to catch up on. I don't think this will be a relatively longer episode, but there's a lot in here, so we'll see where this episode goes. Today, we're gonna briefly touch on some stadium stuff, and then I gave Steve some homework ahead of this week's episode. I did throw some curveballs in here, Steve, so make sure you're ready, paying
I'm
attention.
waiting. I'm
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
never at a surprise to be surprised.
Um, so we're gonna go over a couple sports media things. We're gonna briefly touch on the West Virginia game itself, and then really the season preview portion of the episode begins in the second half of the show. Um, we'll get there when we get there. Um, you ready? You
Yes,
good?
sir.
All right, cool. All right, Steve, I want to begin here. We discussed this last week on last week's episode, kind of things we wanted to see from Beaver Stadium, and that list of new stuff coming to Beaver Stadium is out this week. I don't know if you caught it. Not a lot of big changes. There's a new shuttle. There's family friendly gates, whatever that means. I think the big change for a lot of people that are parents is the lap ticket policy. If
Mhm.
there's essentially a seat available, you can now pay $10 as opposed to paying face value for a 2-year-old. I don't have kids, and I also went to games when I was very young, but I could not imagine bringing anyone under the age of 3 to a Penn State football game without it being very stressful, and paying $125 is probably not worth it. $10 is more reasonable.
Yeah. Well, and three just, I mean, I guess it seems like you can find a babysitter cheaper than the ticket price, but I don't know that under like 7 or 8 that a Penn State, and not that it's a bad thing, but it's not like it's not putting your kid in a position to succeed. Like that was always our mantra. Are we putting them in a position to succeed? And I'm thinking, no.
I think there are certain games we've talked about bringing
Yeah.
my nephew to the Delaware game.
Yep.
I don't know if that's going to work out, but that's a good game to bring him to because it's at
Yep.
noon. It's relatively warm weather, but like Michigan or even this weekend, like there's gonna be a lot of people there. It's just a lot. So
Yeah. I
I
agree.
think that's a good change for fans as well. There's some kids areas. Also something, Steve, that's called Happy Valley Alley, and I think you sound very excited about this. It is an area featuring high top tables and televisions, along with unique concessions offerings and entertainment space. There's also a kids zone featuring games, a turf field, and other activities. Are you excited about that, Steve? Or
I
is that
saw the turf outside the stadium, so now I know what that's for in a little pocket.
okay?
Somebody sent me a picture of
Okay.
that. They got to try, right? They got to try to find different ways to monetize it. I mean, and people, aren't there all to watch the game, right? You've always been walking around when people are doing something else or something different. So give them something, you get some money out of them, or they're not just walking through the gray expanse of the battleship and they're having a good time.
I think the two interesting things to me out of this press release here. The first one is the mobile locker thing. I don't know if you saw this, but apparently there's going to
Saw
be
that?
mobile lockers around the stadium. I would have taken advantage of that every week if I was a student because it was annoying to have to schlep stuff around, especially for Nittanyville. And it would be nice to have brought a backpack and just had somewhere to put it. And if you didn't know somebody tailgating close by, then you couldn't necessarily do that, and it was just a whole mess. I'm very interested to see those prices though, because I know that
Mhm.
like the Nats do those down here in DC. I know there's a couple other stadiums that do that, and it is not cheap. It's like $20 to store your stuff.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, but you got a credit card, you'll
interested.
swipe it and that's what it'll be, right?
Yeah.
So
interested to see what happens there. But I think the main thing that we were griping about last week on the podcast, that getting close to getting some answers. There's some more Pennsylvania type foods in the stadium. Chicky and Pete's is coming, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is there one in the BJC? Is that what's in the
Yes.
BJC
Yep,
now?
yep.
Okay. Is the Subway in Annie Ann's still in Pagula, or is it something different now? Oh, I
No,
heard it was
they're
a Duck Donuts.
Oh, I haven't been in since last hockey season. It could have changed.
Okay.
I'd be
I heard
surprised. I mean, Duck Donuts doesn't sound like something that's replacing
I,
Subway. Maybe Annie Ann's it could have replaced, but
okay. I heard there was a Duck Donuts somewhere inside Pagula.
oh, could have been. They could have just added it too. I don't
Okay.
know. I just haven't been.
Okay. So, but at least Chicky and Pete's. I like the crab fries are okay. And that's maybe just because I'm a Western PA boy. There is a difference between getting Chicky and Pete's and getting Chicky and Pete's at a stadium. I think I've discovered.
Oh, I think so. Oh, yeah. No doubt. Or the airport isn't the same either.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's the issue there. Let's see what else. Doan's Bones, one of my favorite barbecue places in State College, is going to be in the stadium as well. Something called Wing Kitchen and Caliente Pizza as well. We are in. Is that the old Autoport? Is that what that is?
No, that's in Phillipsburg. It's
Okay.
an inn that does cheesesteaks and has good dinners and good meals. So they've been a long time recently supportive athletics. So they're in there with 2 spots for cheesesteaks. So yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice mix of stuff. It would be fun to see how it plays out with all the different play. I mean, because you're going to find out, oh, that's only in one spot and I got to get to it. But I think it's an effort. It's the right thing. And if with all those people in charge that have athletic director titles, it's good to see they're trying something different.
Well, so the main thing that I wanted to draw your attention to, which is what our dear friend of the podcast, Mark Wogenrich, drew my attention to this morning. Did you see the article about James Franklin?
I did, with the pretzels.
Yes. So
Yes.
Philly Pretzel, which is a chain of pretzel sales people, I think is the best way to, is moving into the stadium. Is there's going to be Philly Pretzel locations inside Beaver Stadium. Apparently, James Franklin had the opportunity to be one of the co-founders of Philly Pretzel back in the day, because the guys that he lived with at East Stroudsburg are the people that created that. And it's just like, that's one of those parallel universes of, we would never know who James Franklin is other than he would just be a pretzel salesman.
That's true. And it went to, maybe 15 years ago, 18 years ago, it seemed like a thing that maybe he should have done differently, but I think it's played out all right for him right now. So
I think so too.
he's probably okay.
Anyways, I just wanted to briefly discuss that since we harped on that last week, just to.
I'll await your report next week from inside the stadium.
Okay. Well, I had a question about that, so we'll keep that in mind. All right, moving on. Let's dive into this weekend's game real quick, and then we'll kind of get to bigger picture stuff. Really, my question begins here, and I think it's more so targeted towards your generation, Steve, your demographic, people that have grown up Penn State fans that have lived in the area for 30, 40 plus years now. What does the West Virginia game series mean to you, or is it just another opponent on the schedule?
It's familiarity. It's rooting against the laundry, right? Like, I mean, that's why NIL is always such a stretch, because it becomes an I thing. For me, at least, I think people my age were rooting for a school against a school. WVU was somebody we saw every year, somebody we beat every year, except for one. It's 49-1, I think, or 48-1 in terms of the series. They were close. They were nearby. You knew somebody who went to school there. So, and I would rather them than UMass or Delaware, or rather them than pick some other school. So, many other schools. So I think it's good. And I think it'll play out the way it played out during most of my career, watching them as a fan. Like, Penn State's going to win. It's going to be fun, going to be a little emotional, but I mean, it's not going to be as emotional because the ties aren't there. These kids probably don't know each other like other kids knew 25 or 35 years ago, but I'm happy to see them back in the stadium again. I'll be happy I'll be happy to know their name is on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I think a lot of the Pitt Penn State talk has always been wrapped up on kind of that question of this era. My era grew up with that game, not my era. I guess your era grew up with that game. It meant something to the state of Pennsylvania. Here is essentially the number 2 closest, relatively speaking, football program that has history that actually has done some stuff over the course of theirs, it means absolutely nothing to me other than the fact of I get to see a new opponent in the
Right.
stadium of my generation.
Yep.
I think as much as I don't think Penn State and Pitt should play each other every year, Penn State playing Pitt meant something to me because that was part of that rivalry is a part of the culture in especially where I grew up in Pennsylvania. Maybe not on the eastern side of Pennsylvania for sure, but yeah, I really feel like this is it is above certainly like a Delaware, but it is relatively just another non-conference game for
Yeah,
me as a
they're
fan.
just in the right they're in the right conference to be able to not be a Delaware or a UMass, right? Like they're a Power 5 opponent, even though they're not strong. And yeah, it's just I think it'll be lazy on the media's part to trot out history stuff. I mean, I don't think the game means anything for recruiting. I don't think the game, I mean, it just doesn't mean anything for all those standpoints, but it'll be fun seeing West Virginia on the field. The national broadcast will do something with it, right? Because Todd Blackledge is part of the broadcast and played against them. And Kurt Warner, if he shows up for some reason to visit the stadium this weekend, is from West Virginia, right? So they could have some fun with that during the broadcast. But yeah, it's just another opponent, but it's a Power 5 opponent, right? So,
Right.
you know, that matters in terms of non-conference, because I think we're going to see, I hope that we're going to see more. If the playoff goes to 12, we should see more important non-conference games because they're not going to hurt you as much, and it should sway some voting in your spot. But games like this are rare every year, so it's just nice to have them.
Yeah, I think there's the more of the anticipation for this weekend is on the fact that it is the first football game of the season and it's at night rather than when Penn State played Auburn a few years ago, when that was the anticipation for that game was 100% on football. Like that was on seeing Auburn and Penn State play, two teams that you really don't get to see play very often. A true SEC team come to State College. And this
is all about Penn State. People they're gonna have all day to get ready. They're gonna want to see the quarterback do well, even if it's 10 of 13, or 10 of 16 in the running game. They just want to see the team come out and play well and look like it's supposed to win because it's favored by 3 touchdowns, win by 3 touchdowns, and people will be happy after partying all day to put that exclamation point on the weekend.
Steve sounds like it's going to be. Sounds like it's going to be a little ugly.
You don't think so? I think so, right? Like I guess I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
I think Penn State will cover. It's 20 and a half. Right. I looked at it this morning. I think there will be points. It's first game jitters. Somebody will screw up along the way. I think that's that's what I get out of it. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I think they're going to do it. I think Penn State will do what they're supposed to do. I just think West Virginia is struggling, doesn't have the talent to compete. I don't even think they have a puncher's chance. I just think I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I don't think it's going to be, unless Penn State makes some big mistakes. I don't think Penn State's losing the game.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's probably about where I'm at with it. All right, 7:30 Saturday, NBC. So okay, cool. Moving on to our season preview portion of today's episode. Okay, so we have 3 segments, if you will. We have our sports media segment, because that is part of a tentpole of this podcast. Then we've got some game and player related questions, and then we will do over under and some numbery type questions, but not all of them are numbers related. Are you ready? You buckled in?
Always ready. Buckled up. Here we go.
Okay, cool. Your first homework assignment, Mr. Samsel, it was, what are 3 sports media storylines, whether it be national or local, that you are excited or you think fans should be excited about, or we should just be paying attention to this fall? I will let you begin first.
My third one is Coach Prime and how long that infatuation lasts with Deion Sanders and how he's treated. I mean, the whole Coach Prime thing and everybody calling him Coach Prime, even in the media. Like, I get that broadcast networks pay to be partners and whatever else, but I think it can be Coach Sanders when you're dealing with him. I think it can even be Deion when you're dealing with him. But if you're doing interviews and calling him Coach Prime or everything's Coach Prime, and we'll see if the bloom comes off the rose after TCU in the first game, or if it takes a couple games, or maybe he's a miracle worker. We'll find out.
I think, to me, that was the most talked about story of the national college football offseason by far. And I think, to me, I don't think miracles, it is very hard for miracles to happen in college football the way that it felt like they have been hyped up to happen. And you look at like kind of the roster makeup of that team, and there's not really that much growth and not that much production kind of there. So I'm not saying that I'm rooting against that, but if the wheels fall off that wagon, I'll be okay with that. That's all.
That's fair. That's fair. My second storyline, Big Ten Saturday night. Heard Noah Eagle doing Notre Dame this past weekend. He sounds like football. He doesn't sound offensive. He sounds older than he is. He's clean. He's smart. I mean, in terms of his broadcast, he's clean. He's smart. You hear him. You're comfortable listening to him. I think NBC has all the resources to do it well. They said they expect people to expect them to do it well. So it'll be interesting to see how they do it, how they treat it, how they always talk a bigger game than they can possibly do. Oh, we're going to bring you the excitement, the passion, the college fans. No, you're going to broadcast a football game. So let's not go crazy and show me the cheerleaders and something's crazy that I don't need to see while the game's going on. But, they got Blackledge, who is football, who is college football and has proven himself. So I'm looking forward to what they do, and I think they'll do it well. I guess I'd be surprised if they don't do it well.
I'm interested to see how it shakes out as well. Mainly from that standpoint of Sunday Night Football is culturally, at least for my generation, arguably more important than Monday Night Football. And can they make something out of it, of Saturday night now as well? Like, you look at their schedule and there are relatively good games. I think Penn State, West Virginia, while the logical choice kind of for the weekend, might not necessarily be the sexiest game nationally. And it appears on the pecking order, they're going to be number 2 behind Fox in terms of what game kind of trickles down to them. They've also still have the Notre Dame deal as well. So to me, I am excited. I think they're going to do it right. I do not think it's going to have the impact that they think that it necessarily could. I hope it does. I hope as a Big Ten fan, as a college football fan, it does, but I don't know if it will. It seems like they're going to do the whole kind of sort of game day shtick. Maybe not with the morning show, but they're at least going to have a studio set somewhere. I don't know where. It looked pretty cool. They released images for that, but yeah, I think that's the main thing, and I have something similar on my list as well.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing that I don't get, but I think that's just now the norm. We've talked about.
I think you have to.
Right, we've talked about viewership splintering, less people watching, but it's still the thing. You got to have a studio show, and you got to kind of be on set because that's what's accepted, or on site because that's what's accepted. But gosh, the investment in all that, to do all that, to move it, to set it up. To have your people travel from site, it's hard for me to believe. I mean, I guess they must be making money because they're paying for it, but yeah. And I think their studio show will be okay. I mean, their studio show probably could be more. I mean, Maria Taylor's more set for college football, it feels like, than the NFL, right? And I think Michael Robinson's going to be super on that show. And I think Joshua Perry, who came from the Big Ten Network, is going to be super on that show. So yeah, I think the only thing that scares me, and we'll see if I get interviews. The rules analyst stuff always scares me. Like broadcast networks to do that, so we'll see. And that's nitpicking. So I think
we know you're not the biggest fan of the
exactly. I mean, the other challenge for them is the schedule. Like you said, they're always second because I think at some point, isn't it like Maryland against somebody next week, and they've got Purdue, Syracuse on the 16th. Like there's a couple.
Yeah, there's
a couple that aren't necessarily prime time games.
Yeah, hold on here. Let me pull up the schedule. So, week 2, they've got. You can get all this at stuffsummersays.com, by the way. Charlotte at Maryland is there.
Charlotte, that's right. It is right there. It is, yeah.
And 3 is Syracuse at Purdue.
Right.
So doesn't really get the motor going for me. I want to go back to the Michael Robinson point real quick. I think we're about to experience and see the explosion of Michael Robinson. I think this is the role that if you've watched, the NFL Network stuff that he's done, if you've watched, he does Good Morning Football primarily on the weekends. If you've watched any of that, he's talented. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Penn State fan. I think he's very good. He's very energetic. He has the right just feel to him to bring to a show. I think we're about to experience kind of the boom of Michael Robinson, and now he's going to become a more household name. I think more
Was
so
he
than
one of
he
the ones on your
already is.
list?
No, he's not, but
Okay.
that is
Yeah, I
someone that
think
I'm excited about.
it's his work ethic. I mean, when he worked at the NFL Network, he talked to him. I talked to him about that, and he said, I'm the only one there without a gold jacket. Among these people at the NFL Network, everybody's in the Hall of Fame. So if they're going to get rid of somebody, might be me. So I need to work my butt off and be ready. And I think he's genuine. I think he's, he does the charity stuff in his hometown, Richmond. He does. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. My number one is game day, and what happens to it, and maybe it should be the continue make game day subtitle the continued demise of Lee Corso and what they're going to do with Pat McAfee. I was scared when they changed the theme song, although I guess it's going to be the same theme song with Darius Rucker singing it along with Lainey Wilson in the Cadillac 3 as opposed to
Those are your
Big and
people.
Rich.
You like them?
So Lainey Wilson's good, Darius is good. So yeah, Cadillac 3, seen and heard. So, but I just think Lee Fitting, who was the godfather of game day, has gone from ESPN. I mean, I think Bear and some other people really drive it week to week. But it was a cultural touchstone, and I think it still is, but I think its hold on that could slip a little bit. We'll see.
I think it matters on what games they go to, and
Yep.
if Kirk Herbstreit is true to his word in terms of we're not going to ignore the Big Ten, because if they do what they did with the SEC primarily or relatively, they were fair and balanced. Like they for the last few years have relatively pretty much always gone to the right game, so to speak, when they should go to the right game. And I think that to me is what makes the show so strong. So kind of figuring that out really is very important for them to get that job done properly. I am anxious about it. I will say I did have a question later on in the program about it, so we will come back to that point, Steve.
Well, let's hear your three, baby.
My 3. Okay, cool. Number 3. I went local for number 3. Mercury Sports Group, which is Adam Brenneman's group. I'm very interested, excited to see what they kind of bring to the table. Shout out to my dear friend Corey and Sean, who their podcast got picked up by the Mercury Group. Very excited for them on that. To me, I'm interested to see how that expands and how he handles in-season coverage, because he's done a great job post or preseason, but that's when he can get the access, right? Like that's when he can get players want to talk and coaches want to sit down and talk. Can you do that in the season? That's probably going to be a little bit harder during the season because
unless they've got a special status and they're paying for it and have a relationship with the athletic department, which might get you some access.
That's a good point. Do you think we should pay for a Penn State golfer to come on our podcast?
I don't know what we could afford.
We could swing that. Anyways, I'm interested in that. I think that's something for fans to keep an eye on this fall.
That's a good one. Yes, nice.
Number 2 is it is very macro, but it is just one word, and that's Twitter. Sports has really clamored to Twitter. It has been the important part to Twitter growing. Pretty much every sporting event in the last however many years I've watched with the second screen, and that second screen being Twitter. What's it going to do? How's it going to work? And to me, if it keeps kind of going the way it is, we might lose that town hall feeling that it brought. And is it going to make sports as fun? I don't know. I still think people are going to hang out there, but even with little things like TweetDeck going away, or TweetDeck only going to paid subscribers, I don't know. I'm anxious about that. That is my big concern.
I think that's a fair concern.
And then, of course, number 1 is the new TV deal, and I think really it is we know that CBS is established in the space. They have done a fantastic job with every SEC game for the last 1,000 years. We understand that Fox is involved. So they do a fine job. But how does NBC, as we just kind of discussed, how do they grow and how do they evolve into the space? Because NBC has been one thing and one thing only, the home of Notre Dame football, and now it's not. Now it is they're trying to get their footprint in the door. And I think the interesting thing to me that kind of hurts them is they really only have 1 or 2 games per week, and you really only get that content from 7:30 until they go off the air after the football game during the week. Now that NBC Sports Network is gone, like you'll get commercials on USA or wherever you're getting your Premier League soccer these days. But I don't know if they can carve out the niche that they want to, as we're kind of talking.
What do you think about football night in America on Sundays from the NBC side? Like if they did an expanded studio show in studio and treated it that way, right? Like, because they only have 1 game on Sunday nights, right? And in the NFL.
But I know, but I, as a fan, know that Pro Football Talk is a part of that empire.
Okay.
I know that PFF is relatively a part of that as well. That might be a little more inside baseball for the average fan, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if nationally, a college football lead-in show at the 7 to 7:30 hour could work the same way or Football Night in America works on Sundays, because usually there's at least 1 or 2 interesting 3:30 games that are still going on. I'm tuned into. When Football Night in America is on, that is where my remote control goes after the 4:00 window football game is on, because there's nothing else until that 8:15 kickoff.
Well, there's usually one 4:15 game waiting that struggles. There's one finishing.
Maybe
not several.
Yeah, but
I think you're right. I think NBC probably had to be the happiest broadcast partner that the Big Ten expanded to the West Coast, right? To get 4 more schools of halfway decent capacity, because this will be the only season when there's Charlotte, Maryland on NBC. I mean, they just won't have a dog like that any week, even if they're picking second, even if they're picking third. They shouldn't have a dog like that on the schedule anywhere going forward. They've invested in some insiders, right? Like, and hired a person or two, but I don't think that moves the needle on the TV side of it. It doesn't go any rankings. It just gives you somebody to say, hey, I'm from NBC, and they put some content online. They teach them to do a couple online features and some video. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair. I think the studio show in person feels like a must-do kind of thing, and I think it will be. I think Michael Robbins could break out whether he was in person or on a studio, though. Yeah. And I think they'd be better served in a studio than on site.
Do you know where NBC
is setting up for
Saturday?
I haven't seen it announced yet. I assume it's going to be near the Jordan Center. It's got to be near the Jordan Center somewhere.
Is it though, or is it going to be in the stadium?
Oh, it'll be outside.
You think it'll be outside?
Yeah,
I guess it probably does have to be.
Has to be outside. Has to be over there by where the radio did their stuff for years or whatever else.
But
where Big Ten does it and never gets a crowd. I mean, look where Fox did a couple of years last year and didn't get a crowd, right? They paid people to show up there and be the crowd. Sure. I honestly think people got a better chance at liking NBC's and being excited because Michael's part of it than Fox's.
At Penn State 100%. Yeah. I guess the only question is, like, if it is, what time is that going on air? 7, right?
Yeah, I think it's only. Well, I mean, that's the challenge. That's true. If it's only half an hour before, everybody's going to be in the stadium.
Yeah, I'm going, like, because even if the kickoff is at 7:45, I want to be in the stadium by 7. I'm not going to experience that as a fan. Sure, there's going to be stragglers, but to me, it's a better product if it's down on the field. Do you know where they could put it? They could put it up where Game Day did in when Penn State played Ohio State the COVID year in the stadium. They could put it up there. I bet that's where they put it.
They could. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I didn't think about, and it's logical, right? You're not going to have fans half hour before the game. You're just not. You're going to have stragglers. You're going to have people looking for tickets. You know, people walking back home. So
let's put our ear to the ground and see if we can. We'll text some people and see if we can deduce that one.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's in the game notes yet. The game notes are out. I hadn't looked.
So okay. Those are my big 3 things there. That was good.
Those are good.
That was good. All right. The question portion of today's segment or episode. We're going to start here. We're going to start on these are kind of like a superlative type question, I think is the best way we will frame that segment. All right, Steve, what is the game you are most excited for?
West Virginia. I want to see the laundry on the
West
field.
Virginia? Yeah, okay. Okay. I got to come back to that point in a minute. I am most excited for the Iowa game. I think it will be the game that I am looking forward to the
You're going to
most.
be present to all those visitors?
No, absolutely not. I will be very courteous. Yes, I will. I 100%, no doubt in my mind that James Franklin is still pissed off about 2021 and is still using that as motivation for why this game is the whiteout. I know Iowa has been the whiteout before, but it's 100% no questions asked. That's why Iowa is the whiteout. It's also nice to get a different whiteout opponent between, first one. Well, I know last year was new and the year before that was new, but it has felt like a stretch of Michigan, Ohio State for however many years. All right, Steve, as a fan, which game are you most worried about?
Illinois.
Yeah.
Early, probably maybe an early kick. Good coach on the other side. Game you should win. So I mean, I'm super worried, but looking at the schedule, that's the one I'm most worried about.
Yeah, that was my answer as well. It's got that feel to it. This has got that feel to it.
I mean, they'll grumble about is it because it's a noon game, right?
It's a noon game.
11 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah.
Like these guys have never ever conducted a workout in the morning before. Like they've never played games like that. To me is, and maybe we make that something like the whole game time thing, both from and that the media parrots it, and nobody says, "Hey, coach, have you never had 6 a.m. workouts before? Like when these kids had to be at their best for times or lifts or whatever else. So how is 11? I don't know.
I need to do it. I've been researching some numbers. I'll just leave it at that. And that's a number that is one that I need to take a deep dive on.
The noon start
is a noon start in the Central Time Zone, because Penn State is looking at not just one of those, but maybe 2 of those with the Northwestern game
within 3 weeks. Yeah,
all within September.
They'll be in the same place. It'll be familiar. It'll be great. Going to Chicago, it's all the same.
I love Chicago.
And Northwestern's going to be awful. So like, come on.
Yeah, there's big
yeah.
issues there. All right, Steve, what game do you think will be the best game of the season?
The game at Ohio State.
Look at us. We are on the same page tonight. That was
also
my answer.
That's bad. But yes, like they're going to go out there. They're going to play well. They always play well against Ohio State. Like they just generally do. Maybe don't finish, but they play well.
That's about pretty much how I think that would be the game that most people remember this season for. That's all I'm going to say there.
One way or the other. That's true.
All right. This next question, not a specific game, just in general. What is your biggest concern going into the 2023 season?
Wow.
I put him on the spot there.
I know, and because it wasn't in the homework, but as you think through the team, there's really only 2 answers. And there's the jerk podcast answer that's coaching, and then there's the not as jerky like special teams play right because the kickers and punter are new, right? So I'll go with coaching.
Okay, all right. I wasn't expecting that.
Why? What is your concern?
Okay, here is my answer, and this is hot. This is hot. Okay, this is a very spicy take. There's just like this small part of me that is like, what if the Drew Allard thing doesn't work out? Like, what if it doesn't?
Well, it can't be that bad because the other guy's so close. They haven't been able to name.
Okay, that's fair.
It'll be okay.
Right. Sure, that's right. Okay, thank you. This is why we have therapy sessions with Steve.
Yeah, kids. It's going to be so good. It's been so close that they can't name a starter, so the other guy must be good.
Okay, all right. You blocked me off that edge a little bit. Probably right about that edge a little bit more.
And they got 2 running backs who are supposedly both all conference. So
the running back thing makes me, when you look at the skill positions, even if the wide receivers aren't as great as kind of the last couple batches of wide receivers at Penn State, you've got 2 very viable tight ends. You've got 2 very realistically top 3rd round, 3 rounds draft pick running backs playing football. I'm excited about that. So,
well, I'm going to add a 3rd one to my mix of concerns now that I thought about it. Like, what has the offensive line done to make people believe all of a sudden this is the year they're going to be good? I mean, I get it. They've got one guy who's wonderful.
Yeah, but in college, that goes a long way.
Okay. I mean, that may be my other, as I really take more than 10 seconds to think about it. Like everybody's assuming the offense and saying the offensive line's not a problem this year. We've heard that before.
I think what's different though is you have a unit that's worked together now really 3 seasons, 2.5, 3 seasons. And I think that in college is a massive key to success. So I don't know. And I don't think the line was bad last year. I mean, it was very much improved last year compared to the previous year, minus the Ohio State game. So,
Oh, there's that. No, as I thought about it, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I guess they were
okay.
fourth
You
in
feel better
rushing,
about it? You looking at
fourth in
numbers?
rushing offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
He feels
okay.
better about it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Steve, which player are you most excited for?
Strower, right? I mean, it's the key to everything being really good. I mean,
Fair.
being very good. It's the key to them. They're good. That's the key to them being very good.
That's very fair. I'm going to go off the beaten path. I'm very excited for Tony Rojas, and that is mainly just because I pay attention to DMV sports a little bit more, and he was very good down in Northern Virginia. But yeah, I think on the offense, if really true serum, Drew Aller would be offense, and decent defense would probably be Abdul Carter. But Tony
There's
Rojas
going to be
is
some
my-
defenders that elicit some big cheers from the fan base during the games and do some exciting things, and you can be excited for them. But I think if this team's going to be doing what people think they want it to do, quarterback's going to have to play pretty well.
And look, I mean, that's the crux of the whole conversation is James Franklin hasn't had that quarterback yet. Like as much as Trace was great, as much as Sean was great, I said what I said. He hasn't.
I was checking my earphones, but I guess you said
that it guy. I said great. You were talking about the number 2 quarterback.
in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Packers.
It's true.
All right. So, all right. Last one of this segment, Steve. What is the non-football thing that you are most excited for this season?
Chocolate milk.
Oh, that's a good one.
Creamery chocolate milk on Saturdays can't be beat.
That's Steve loves his creamery chocolate milk. He does. What time are you getting? What time?
Earlier than you.
Okay, earlier than me. Okay, perfect.
Earlier than everybody except one person who's listening to this podcast.
Okay. He's tying you there.
True that.
What am I most excited for? I gotta say, self-plug, annoying plug. I'm very excited to have this. Like, I feel like the podcast is really rolling now. I feel like we've got the blog. Like, I'm.
Well, we didn't say swag. I'm most excited about
stuff.
swag. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Shameless plugs.
That's what we need. We need.
Oh God.
We didn't mention that the stadium has a noise counter. We should get a swag plug counter.
Of us, or
number of times the swag's been plugged in the broadcast.
Okay. All right,
it'd be like the count from Sesame Street.
We'll
that's 5 plugs, shameless plugs for the clothing.
We can talk to our production team and see what they can do. All right, moving on. The over/under portion of the segment of the episode. I'm already lost. Steve, these are relatively rapid fire. You're allowed to expand, and then we'll get on with the show.
Okay.
All right. Number of beers that I will purchase in the stadium this season, and I set the number at 2.5. Over. I think I'm going to go under.
You'll be excited at the Iowa game. You're going to drink a beer just to spite that one guy, and it'll set you off.
That's true. Okay. Next question. We've talked about this point. We've alluded to it. Will Steve Samsel enter Beaver Stadium during a football game this football season?
Yeah, I think so. At least once.
Okay, I had yes as my answer for that one.
Yep.
All right. Sports media related here, and then we'll kind of get back on the fan path. Will College Game Day show up at Beaver Stadium this year? And then the 0.5 is the over/under. Over. Michigan game?
Yeah, and they're going to have to win to get there, right? Like, it's not going to be. I mean, I guess we'll find out. And I said this last year. Did they showed up for the whiteout last year? What did they show up for last year?
No, they didn't. They didn't
come at all, right?
Yeah.
So last year, my spiel was talking about the power of the whiteout, whether that's going to be enough to bring them because we didn't have a game that merited it, right? This year, we'll have to see if the power, because Iowa's not a sexy game. I don't know what else is that week, but not enough to do it on its own. So we'll have to be Michigan. You know, it would have to
Yes.
be Michigan, and they'll both have to be good to that point, which they should. I mean, Michigan doesn't play anybody the first 4 games of the season, and then they just play some Big Ten teams to that point.
Okay, hold on. Looking at
So
that week, and I think there's a lot of good games that weekend, if I remember correctly.
I
So
think
you've
there is
got
too.
USC at Oregon, which could probably determine the Pac-12. You've got Texas at TCU, which if things go the way they should, that could be a game. And well, Fox might have the rights to that one.
No, then it's not
And
sounding so bad. I don't know.
that's not terrible. Yeah, Michigan and
I
Penn
mean,
State.
Big Noon kickoff was here for the first time last year for Ohio State. That was its first visit to Penn State. I don't know. It's funny. I mean, Penn State made a big deal out of it. There's 3 years in a row. Game day's been here. No other school's been here 3 years in a row. And that's the kind of stuff when you do it, you know, you're like, there's going to be a point where you're not on, right? Like you don't need to be this about it. So I still think they'll show up because I think Penn State's relevant. It'll just be interesting if the whiteout is worth more than the good game later in the season. And if you don't do the whiteout, the good game may not play out to the end of the season.
Well, okay, so let's say Penn State has a loss to Ohio State entering that game and Michigan is undefeated.
You come because Penn State
Okay.
can beat them at home, right?
True.
Yeah,
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question. I didn't have my chicken basket shirt on. I have my Zombie Nation shirt on. That's 3 if you're keeping track. But how many chicken baskets will I consume? And I set the over under at 3.5.
Ooh, I'll go over with that too.
I think I'm gonna go under, but like probably just 3 because
you can't buy a half.
Yeah, well, you can't buy half. Number one, you're gonna go over. I'm writing all these down. I'm trying to keep track. I think I'm gonna go under mainly because like usually there's one game that I just like I'm not dealing with the line.
What does it matter? Does game time matter? Like the 3:30 games better for the chicken basket?
The 3:30 and the noon games are better. I think some of that also is like 7:30. There's a chance this weekend I don't even get one, just because I'll probably be so full from tailgate food.
Okay. Well, in the noon games too, right? Like the line should be shorter depending on who they are.
Yeah,
like Delaware should be a guaranteed chicken basket game.
Well, and I'm not sure if I'm going to that game, so that might.
That hurts. You didn't tell me you're taking a game out of the mix.
So,
okay, I'll stand by my answer anyway.
Okay. All right. Speaking of tailgating, how many times will I make the trek over to Steve's tailgate this year? And
Once.
I set the over. I set it 1.5.
Once you'll come for chili cook-off.
Oh, when is chili cook-off this year?
Homecoming, because it's a 3:30 game, right? Isn't UMass a 3:30 game?
Yeah. I might. I'm gonna try. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna try.
I think we said UMass is the chili cook-off because it was a 3:30. It was homecoming. Yes.
If you're listening, Steve essentially tailgates like from the Atherton Street Walmart to the other Atherton Street Walmart or whatever street. that is how far our tailgates are apart from each
You need
other.
a scooter.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Bring a scooter. Bring a bike.
We could get Stuff Summer Says scooters.
Rent one of those orange cars.
Orange
those orange bikes. Those orange, what are those zip bikes, whatever they are. Little bikes on campus. They rent.
I haven't been to campus in a while.
Oh, they rent bikes. Okay.
All right. Time for the relatively serious questions. How many All-Americans will Penn State have this year? And I said it at 2.5.
I'm going with 2.
I go with 2. I am also going to go with 2 as well. Because I think you'll probably get one out of probably maybe Chop and maybe one of the running backs. I just don't see that many more.
What about the lineman?
Maybe
because that's why it's a 2.5.
Okay. And now I'm thinking about the King brothers.
So I'm going under. You're going over now.
Kobe. Okay. So all right, we're going over. Changing it. Thank you for talking through with me. Next question: wins over Ohio State and Michigan, 0.5.
Over.
I'm going over as well. All right. Now we got some yes or no's. All right. 3 of them. Will Penn State have a Heisman finalist this year?
No.
I don't think so. I think next year, 2024. Okay. Write that down.
Next year in the no excuse year. Well, no, because the schedule changed. We don't know. Never mind. So never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Get ahead of myself.
All right. Will Steve and I be making a trip to Indianapolis this December?
Summer?
December.
You're going to Detroit though, right? You're not going to make 2 trips. Or are you?
If Penn State goes to Indianapolis, yes or no? Are they going to Indianapolis? That's the question, Steve.
Oh. No.
No. I don't think so, but I think it's going to be because of a technicality, because
Okay.
it's going to be all based on tiebreakers. I think that's how this is going to shake out. All right.
No, if it's yes, I need to go because students never made that trip before, and it was a good trip.
It was a great trip. All right. The last 2 questions are very important. Probably the trickiest questions we've ever asked on this podcast. We've asked a lot of questions on this podcast. I've asked mainly most of them. Will Penn State make it to the playoff this year?
No.
Steve says no.
You say yes?
I say yes.
Ooh, okay.
That's all I'm gonna say. You read that later in the blog. That's all I'm gonna say.
You know what's going to happen when they make the playoffs?
In
your mind? Huh?
They're gonna lose.
No, you know what you're going to hear in your head when they make the playoffs, when that announcement comes? Stand up.
Oh, this?
They're going, yeah, that's what you're going to be thinking.
That's 4. That's 4.
No, I was working on it. Took me a long time to work that one, but
that's good. That's a good one. All right. Steve Samsel, your record prediction for the Penn State varsity football team.
It might sound incongruent with what I just said, but 11-1.
So you think 11-1, essentially they lose to
either Ohio State or
Michigan, and
but
then
somehow still don't get in.
So don't get in. So essentially what would have to happen is then if Ohio State beat Penn State, Michigan would have to beat Ohio State. And that's how I think Penn State
and in that instance, then you're only getting, well, then both Michigan and Ohio State could get in, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like if they're both undefeated at the end and one beats the other and they both, I don't know. I guess I'd be surprised.
Okay.
But I guess if they're only 11-1, it'd be hard for them to be out because one of the ones they would have to have beaten would be one of those 2. But I'll still say no and be pleasantly surprised if that ends up being the case.
Okay. I agree with you on the record. I haven't decided if it'll be Ohio State or Michigan. I think it'll be Ohio State though. I think that will be the win. I'm sorry. To? No, they'll lose to Michigan. I really think they'll lose to Michigan. I think that will set off a nice panic within the fan base, and then college football craziness will happen. Penn State will go to the playoff.
Oh, wow. That's just like mean. So that would be the worst possible, right? You go to Columbus because Columbus is early, right? Earlier.
Yeah.
You go out there, you win, you come home and you get Michigan at home, and the fans would be pissed.
It's
that's horrible.
It's beautiful though, because then James Franklin gets to get into the playoff in the 4-team era, because I think that is how we're going. I think this is going to be very much the year of how we remember.
So you think a loss to Michigan at home gets them in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Michigan, who starts with the poor Sisters of the Poor. And here's another media thing. Like, I think Michigan should have to be 15-0 with the schedule it's playing, for God's sake, to start the season. Like, unless they start, and this is the last year that it matters. Once they go to 12, it won't. Well, it should still matter. A schedule like that shouldn't get you in. It's the same thing that got Penn State against, Washington in 2016, right? Washington didn't play anybody. Penn State lost to Pitt. I know they lost to Michigan, but by logic, that Michigan should have been able to be explained away by injuries and everything else. Wow. Okay, this will be fun. Can't wait to see it.
Okay. All right.
2 11-1s. Look at us. Look how much more positive you got this year than the past.
You're one to talk. All right.
It's true. You know what it is? I think it's this comfortable shirt.
That's this comfortable. Oh my God, that's 6, I think. I lost her. I do have to say,
number one, comfortable. I'm sorry.
If you do order this is the crew neck sweatshirt. This is a large, and it's a little snug on me, and I don't think I've gained that much weight. I would order a size up if you like them baggy. It's very warm. Like, I'm sitting in here kind of sweating. It's very soft though. I would 12 out of 10 recommend.
So they're not even the mentions. Now we're getting to the product descriptions. Yeah. This is great.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This week's old guy, young guy. It's football related. It's very quick. Steve, what is your essential tailgate item? What is the one item that if you're having a tailgate, you have to have?
Oh, if it's a home game, chocolate milk.
Oh,
if it's Comfortable pair of shorts. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't, it's not food stuff. Like, there's not something that we always have. We don't have like the house alcohol that's guaranteed that it's going to be this beer, this whatever. So chocolate milk home and a comfortable pair of shorts anytime.
Even cold weather shorts?
I'll wear shorts till I can wear shorts almost all season now because I'm not going to the game. I can be brave during pregame any number amount. If you don't have to go in the game and freeze for 3.5 hours, yeah, shorts will get me to November unless it gets really cold.
Okay.
Shorts and sweatshirt weather. It's the fall.
That's true. I do love shorts and sweatshirt weather.
So what's your one essential item?
Mine would be, for whatever reason, our friend group before every Penn State game has always consumed Capri Suns. Just always had Capri Suns. Don't know why. So I think it would be.
What flavor? Does it matter?
We're Team Pro Pacific Cooler. That is our usual purchase.
We had some friends over with their kids yesterday. That's what they drank. So there you go.
Good staple. All right. I know that was a lot, but
listen to these heavy drinkers: chocolate milk and Pacific Cooler Capri Suns.
Yeah, breakfast.
Does Bev Summers drink a Capri Sun too?
No, she drinks Miller Lite and Miller Lite.
That's why I was asking. I was been surprised had that been the answer. So
no. Okay, moving on. Actually, not moving on because we're gonna wrap up the show. Let's see where to begin. Well, all right. So, Steve, are you writing this week? You might be writing this week. I saw.
I am writing this week. We got to get something filed the next day. Yes, Steve.
Okay. Yep. There are some talks of Steve writing. I'm gonna write a season preview and a game preview. So that's all coming on the blog. I did put together flashcards for Penn State football's roster. I will also do lock screens and depth charts once those come out. If those come out, we'll get you those. We'll find a way to get those for you. They're already made. And let's see what else. That's about it of content coming out this week. We got a newsletter, which is maybe coming out next week, but not this week. I was going to put it out this week, but there's just too much stuff going on. You can sign up for that at the website. Our website is stuffsummersays.com. On that website, there's a section called With
Steve.
I have an email address. It's Darian@stuffsummersays.com. Steve's got an email address. It's
Steve@stuffsummersays.com.
YouTube page somewhere here. Our 7th mention of clothing that we now own.
Just look for stuff on the website.
Look for the stuff. And other than that, I've got a Twitter handle. It's @StuffSummerSays. Steve's got one. It's
@SteveSamsel.
That's it. That's maybe I'll see you Saturday, Steve. How about that?
See you Saturday.
Okay. Bye.